Okay. Today we're going to start Ayin Dalet Amud Beis. That's 74b. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. The source of our learning, we should have basic English immediately.
Right.
Okay. We're sort of in the middle of something, so we have to go back over. We're talking about a woman that took a vow that her father and her husband should be able to annul together because she was a aras. Now, in this case, her husband had passed away, and she's a shemeres yavam. So her father and her shemeres yavam, not her shemeres yavam, and her yavam should be allowed to annul the vow, which actually is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. It's Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkomer. Rabbi Yeshua, on the other hand, held that the husband, this future husband, would only be allowed to annul the vow if there's only one brother there. There's one option. But if there's more than one option, then if there's more than one brother, then we say that he can't annul the vow. And then there was the opinion of Rabbi Akiva that says that he can never annul the vow. So it's a three-way machlekes. Rabbi Eliezer said didn't matter how many options, how many choices of yavams there were. Rabbi Yeshua said it would only apply if there was one choice, and Rabbi Akiva said it never works. The Gemara explained it. The machlekes says Rabbi Eliezer holds that. Well, we had a question on Rabbi Eliezer. Let's start with Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva holds ein zika, that there's no connection between this woman and the yavam, and the zika, that attachment doesn't really exist until they're actually married. Rabbi Yeshua said, yes, zika, that there is zika, and therefore if there's one, it would be fine. And if there's one option, then that would work. And Rabbi Eliezer, we had a question, what does he hold? Even if he holds yesh zika, that there's an attachment between the woman and the future husband, which is her brother-in-law, the yavam that's going to marry her. But what about which one it's going to be? What about the breira? What about choosing which one it's going to be? How do you know? What are you going to do? You're going to say that there's all of them can annul all the brothers can annul her vow? How is that going to work? None of them have been chosen yet to be the husband. Well, to answer that question, Rabami comes along and says that one of the brothers did mimer. And mimer is a rabbinic kedushin. And so there's sort of like a betrothal. And because of that, that's how they're able to, this is the one brother that's able to annul the vows. And that answers the question on Rabbi Eliezer. Then we asked the question according to Rabbi Eliezer that says that mimer doesn't really help. Yeah. Says Rabbi Eliezer says that mimer only helps lidchis b'tzara, which we explained it one way last week. Then I see the other way of explaining it is lidchis b'tzara meant that if there were two brothers that are married to two sisters, and there's a third brother. Now, one of the brothers married to the sisters passed away. So the free brother, the non-married brother, does mimer to that one, the one that to the widow. But then the other brother passed away. So is he considered that now he can't marry either of them because it's achay sikukasai, and it's a problem? Or do we say that he's already married, and this one is not even his yavama? So we say that the mimer is enough, according to Beis Shammai, the mimer is enough that it's lidchis b'tzara, it pushes away the tzara that she should not be a problem for him. And Ishtayima, his wife, has already married him because of the mimer. That's what that. But according to that, but it's not a real attachment enough to say that they're married so that he should be allowed to annul the vows. So the Gemara answer, we're talking about that they were already in court once because they were supposed to get married. The time for the marriage had arrived, and the husband didn't do the wedding, and it's according to Rav Pinchas that says that anyone that takes a vow takes the vow with the intention that their husband will agree, and since he has to already pay for her food because they were in court, so she's taking the vow with her husband in mind. Now we start on top of Ayin Dalet, Amud Beis 74. 74b. Tanan. See, it's the first word on the page. We learned in the Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer. This was Rabbi Eliezer's logic of why the Yavam should be allowed to annul the vows of his sister-in-law, of his future wife. Rabbi Eliezer said, if there would be a woman that he does the acquisition on his own, finds a random woman and he's going to marry her, and he does kedushin, that's good enough, just from his own actions. If it's a marriage that's made by heaven because of the death of the brother, so is not all the more so a kal v'chaimer that he should be allowed to annul the vows? He's even more attached. Heaven put them together. We ask a question on Rab Ami. According to Rab Ami, what's the reason why he's allowed to annul the vows? It's not because of the Zika, because the Zika wasn't enough. We have to throw in another factor here. Other factors is that he did Maimer. He did a rabbinic kedushin, a rabbinic betrothal. What are you telling me that it's from heaven? It's not because it's from heaven. It's his action that caused it that he could do this. The whole logic falls off. Gemara answers, Shekana latzmei al yedei shamayim. Gemara says, well, he did both. The attachment was from heaven, but then he did one more detail to this. He did the kedushin. Al yedei shamayim was okay. Tifshay deboyi Rabba. Answer the question that Rabba asked. Maimer lebeishamai erisinaisa inesuinaisa. Tifshay tinesuinaisa. What does Maimer really do? According to Beishamai, that says that Maimer is enough, that so maybe that she would now, if she gets divorced, she doesn't need chalitza, she just needs a get. What part of the marriage does it accomplish? Does it accomplish the Maimer? That's the rabbinic kedushin, rabbinic betrothal. Does it accomplish a betrothal, or does it accomplish an actual marriage? Is it a kedushin or a nesuin? Erisin is another word for kedushin. So let's answer that it's nesuin. Why? The erisin isa, because if it would only do erisin, just the kedushin, we're understanding from this Gemara that that it's the husband that's annulling the vow without the father's participation. Now, how are we getting to that? Like, what is compelling us to say that? I'm not sure. But the Gemara understands right now that it must be that the annulment of the vows is taking place by the Yavam. He's doing this alone without the father. So if that's the case, then it must be that we have an answer to Rabba's question. How could he annul a vow on his own? It must be that the Maimer did accomplish the full marriage. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, ma yafer b'shutvis. Nachman Yitzchak says no. Even that was all an assumption that you had. Really, Maimer actually only annuls together. If the husband's going to annul after a Maimer, he annuls together with the father of the girl. Yeah. So after all this girl has been through, she's a widow, but the father is still annulling her vows. It would have to be that she's a widow from an erison. It can't be that she was a widow from a marriage. If her first husband was fully married, then she would automatically be out of her father's jurisdiction. So it must be.
She's still underage.
I think so.
Would she revert back?
I don't think so. I think once there's a nesuin, I think she doesn't go back to the father.
What about calling the story?
Rabbi. Rabbi,
Yeah.
could it be that it's because she left her father's jurisdiction? So then that's why the father's no longer part of the notification?
Yeah, but if she left her father's jurisdiction, it doesn't mean that the husband takes over fully. If it's only a betrothal. We're asking here, is it a betrothal or is it a wedding or is it a full marriage? So the father's jurisdiction isn't going to tell me that. If it's a betrothal, then together with the father it would work. If it's a full marriage, then he should be able to do it on his own.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that because she was married once before, so she really would not have the father's involvement anyway. That's what to send the Zoom link. Can you post it? Do you have the Zoom link? Post it for Eliezer. Yeah. Any question? Naftali, ask it
The
for me.
thing would go back to the father's house. in Truma.
Oh yeah. She goes back to the father's house to be if she never had to eat truma, she would go under the father's. Yeah, but that's nothing to do with if she's a nara. It just says what her status is as the priesthood. That have to do if she has a child from the husband. If she's the Bas Cohen, she goes back to the father. Yeah, I hear what you're asking. Tanya Nami Hachi Karabami. We have a brisa that supports Rabami. That's a little bit of a long brisa. Let's see. Shemeres Yavam. It looks like our Mishnah, but there's extra details here. Shemeres Yavam. A woman that's waiting for the Yavam to do the levirate marriage with her. Bein Yavam Echad, Bein Shnei Yavam. Whether there's one brother, whether there's several brothers that are optional, that are candidates for the Yibam. Rabbi Lezer Eme Yafer. Rabbi Lezer says that all of them can annul her vows. That's what it sounds like. Unless it means one of them. Because of Maimer. If we're trying to bring a support for Rabami, it probably means one of them. Rabbi Shua says, Rabbi Shua says this would only apply if there's one brother, not if there's more than one brother. Rabbi Kiva says it only applies, it doesn't apply at all. It never works.
Yeah, just send it to Eliezer. Well, you as a lawyer were supposed to tell me not to speak up and you would take care of it, but you didn't. Shanda.
Oh, the opinion of Ben. Oh, wow. Yeah, well, I can't tell him because he's not on. Okay.
How did you know he needed it?
Because it came up on my screen that he's texting me. Okay. Rabbi Lezer says, yeah, for Rabbi Shua says, Rabbi Kiva, you can't annul at all. I'm Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer says like this. If there's a woman that he has no rights to before he's betrothed to her, but once she is betrothed to him, then he's able to annul her vows. Nigmaralai, that he's able to be mayfair to annul her vows together with the father. It's like completed. Nigmaralai. She's completely under his jurisdiction regarding annulling vows. Doesn't mean completely because it's still together with the father. Isha sheyesh lechelek, achlei tavaler should say. So a woman that was already his before he does a betrothal on her, which means a yavama. He already is attached to her. So mishabasaler shusein edinsha tigmalai. Once he does maimer, when she comes into his jurisdiction, is it not a kal v'chaimer that he should be able to annul her vows? if there was no attachment and then he creates an attachment, so he can annul her vows. So if there's already an attachment and he creates an attachment, for sure he can annul her vows. And notice what we just said was that if he does a mimer, that's what we're assuming, that's what it means. So you see, this is a raya to Reb Ami. That's what we're going to learn. The Gemara says, the Brisa continues, Rabbi Kiva loy. Kiva says, no. When you say you talk about a woman that she's under her own jurisdiction, that just like before he's married to her, he has no rights to her. So no one else has any rights to her. But when it comes to this woman that's being given to him from heaven, she's also attached to the brothers. So there's actually a downside to this prior attachment, which because she's attached to other people. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua says to Akiva, that's how we talk to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yeshua was his teacher. What you're talking about only applies if there's more than one brother there that could marry her. There's more than one candidate. But how are you going to respond if there's just one? And that's actually Rabbi Yeshua's view. But when there's only one, it actually works. When there's only one brother there, that one brother can annul his future Yavama's vows, we said together with the Vada. Amalei. So Rabbi Kiva responds, did we ever make a distinction between if there's one or if there's two, or if there's mimer was done or if the mimer wasn't done? Kashar dvarim, hein nedarim. And just as it's the same for all other things, so too for nedarim, it's going to be the same. That there's no difference if there's more than one yavam or only one yavam, it's not going to work. The Lashon Hazemer Ben Azai. Ben Azai said the following expression: Chaval alecha Ben Azai. What a shame on you, Ben Azai. Shlishimashtes Rabbi Akiva, that you didn't serve Rabbi Akiva more.
We learned this before.
We had a statement from Ben Azai, I don't forget if it was Ben Azai or Ben Zoma, that said, Kol Shukei Tveria, the whole city is Daiminalai, Klipas, Hashum, Chutz Min HaKareach Hazeh.
We learned this because I remember I commented on this. This is why I had corrected that I never took advantage of her cries in college. It was based on
That's
this.
maybe the Samach. How long ago?
In the past. You want me to be specific? Past is anything before today.
You can see why they would say this, because Rabbi Akiva stood up to everybody.
Right.
They just kept coming at him and he knocked them all down. Another, hold on.
Okay.
Rabbi, here mentions that Ben Asi was a devoted student of Rabbi Akiva. His comment here is a rhetorical way of expressing admiration for his beloved teacher.
Oh, very nice. He's saying that Ben Asi was actually a student of Rabbi Akiva. And he was just saying that out of admiration.
Was he a contemporary of Rabbi Yehuda?
I think he was. No, because when the Dalit Shenichnas, the four that entered into the orchard, one of them was Ben Asi. So it must have been a different group.
And here it says Shimon ben Azi was one of the Tanaim during the period that the Sanhedrin was in Yavne, after the destruction of the Second Temple.
Right. Okay, now the Gemara says, "My tiny kavasei de Rabami." What did you mean that this price is a support for Rabami? Gemara doesn't always do this. Gemara a lot of times just leaves you to figure it out. But here we said that we're going to bring a brisa that supports Rabami. Now, remember, Rabami said that the only way to explain our Mishnah was to say that Maimer was performed, that the Yavam had done this rabbinic sort of betrothal on the Yavama.
Rabbi, another interesting thing it says here, it says, it appears that Ben Azzi did not study Torah in his youth until he met the daughter of Rabbi Akiva, who promised to marry him if he were to commit himself to learn Torah. So it's like history repeated himself.
Oh, really?
That's what it says.
Quite interesting. Oh, so there is a machlekes about if he actually married Rabbi Akiva's daughter, or it could be he was never married, right? It says Ben Azai didn't get married, or even if he did get married, he was divorced, or she died.
Yeah, here it goes on to state that it wasn't clear if he actually married her.
Right. Okay, that we'll learn in I think at the beginning of Saita we have that mentioned. Tani Kava say the Rabami. So my Tani Kava, what is the support that we brought for Rabami? Diktani, mi diktani, from the fact that it taught bein she'asa b'maimer, bein she'lo yasa b'maimer. See what Rabbi Kiva responds? That there's no difference if Maimer was done or Maimer wasn't done. So that means that he was responding to Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer was saying that Maimer would have made a difference. And Rabbi Kiva was responding that it doesn't. Inami, another possibility is the support for Rabami. Mireisha diktani mishenichnas al rishusei nigmaralai. Says when she enters into his domain, so then it's considered finalized regarding that he can now annul her vows. What does it mean, nichnas al rishusei? It must mean read like Kaddish my nigra malai tifshemine kashas b'maimer. And eat like Kaddish. There's really no kedushin there. It must mean that he did maimer, and maybe that's what the Gemara is saying. Eat like Kaddish.
In other words, she went out of Zika into maimer.
Right.
So
yeah, but because there's no kedushin really, it must mean that he did maimer.
but I'm saying,
Right.
but she left something else. Before that was
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's called she leaves the Zika, she strengthens the Zika.
Oh, okay.
Right. My Ukasha, now the Gemara asks, what are you talking about before when you said in the same way this is for everything else, that there's no difference between one Yavam or many Yavamim, Yavmim. And the same, and there's no difference between Maimer and no Maimer for other things, so too by regarding Nedarim, regarding annulling the vows. So Diktani, that you mentioned. Amarava hachiktani. Rava says this is what it means. Even if Maimer was performed, even if Maimer was performed, if another man lives with her, you see, if she marries another man, not the Yavam, so there's no death penalty there. It's not like she's betrothed or married. And even if Maimer was performed and she goes ahead and lives with another man, it's still not considered like she's married that she would get the death penalty. So if that's the case, so the same thing will apply to Nedarim, that she's not really considered married, just like there's no difference between one Yavam or many Yavam regarding her getting the death penalty. And even if Maimer was performed, it doesn't matter. So too, regarding Nedarim, there's no difference between if Maimer was performed. Amar Ravashi. Rashi says, Masnisin Amideka. This also we have a proof from our Mishnah. Ein Yavama Gemura Leisha. Shem Sharisa Gemura Leisha. That we're discussing the Chiyuv Skila. That a Yavama is not considered the wife regarding the death penalty, even if Maimer was performed, like an Arusa would get the death penalty if she lives with someone else.
Skila for marital relationship.
Yeah, right. For adultery.
For adultery. So
right.
Saying she would not.
Right.
So it's not as much of a relationship.
Right.
That's what that's coming to show.
Right.
What's the purpose of that?
It was sort of like a designation for which wife and which brother was
I
going to do it.
understand, but what's the point? I understand what it accomplishes, but why did the rabbi say we should?
I don't remember
Institute
why
this
they
practice.
instituted it. I don't remember.
So far, the advantage we've seen is now there's somebody to offer her Nedarim.
According to one opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. But according to the Ran says the Allah is like Rabbi Akiva.
I'd like to venture the
Yes,
answer.
the Ran has an
Wait.
interesting question.
Kiddush, Mekadesh, Kadesha is usually a total stepping over the line. Mekadesh Shabbos, we're going from Kol to Shabbos. Mekadesh Anisha, we're going from a totally unrelated person to now a wife. All right. Kadesha, she's stepping way over the line. Right. Here, there is already some sort of connection, probably Zico or a potential connection. So it's not really Kiddushin. Maybe that's why it's a minor. I mean, it's just yes.
That's what I was asking. Why is it necessary? According to the Torah, you just have to live with this woman, and that's the marriage.
Just look at her.
Live with her.
Oh,
Just live with her, and that's the marriage. Why did the rabbis institute Maimer? Yeah,
but
I
I'm
don't
saying
remember. The Gemara
you still
discussed
have
it.
to have some act, something
It was just to
to
consummate the
legitimize
marriage.
it.
The Ran asked a question where he says he doesn't know the answer.
Be quiet. Tell him to buy his own buzzer.
Can the father? We're saying over here that the yavam cannot be mefer. The yavam, according to Rabbi Akiva, the yavam cannot annul the wife's vows. Now we said that if a woman was married, betrothed, and the husband dies, the father inherits the rights to annul the vows. Alone, the father of the girl can now annul the vows. What happens if there's a yavam there and she was betrothed? And can the father annul the vows? The Gemara didn't discuss that in the whole thing. Can the father alone annul the vows? Now that we've said that the yavam can't, so look, we said the husband died, the father annulled. So the husband died, let the father annul. I know you didn't mention before that there was a yavam there. But now you did mention it, and now you're telling me that the yavam can't do it. So can the father do it? So he says he doesn't know the answer. Mistabra. That it should work.
Oh, I was going to say, Mr. It can't work if they don't mention it. Well, why do you automatically say it can't work?
That since the yavam did not inherit the rights, so he thinks that the father would be able to annul the vows. However, he does have a question that if vows were made under the jurisdiction of the yavam, the new vows, he doesn't know if the father would be able to annul those, but the old vows, the father would be able to annul. Okay. We have a new Mishnah. Someone tells his wife, Kol Nedarim Shetaduri, every vow that you're going to take. Yeah, that's the feminine Taduri. Mikan ad she'avay mimakam pleni. From now until I return from my journey, Hari and Kayamin, they should be established. All the vows should be established. That doesn't work. Can't establish the vows before he hears them. And not only before he hears them, before they were made. They weren't even made yet. Hariyim Mufarim, next case. Let's say he says that any vow that you make should be annulled. the other way. Well, if you can't establish them, maybe you can't annul them either. Rabbi Lezer Aimer Mufa. Rabbi Lezer says that he can annul them. He can annul them before they take effect, before they were even uttered. Chachamim Aimer Meina Mufa. The Chum say no, he cannot annul them. Amar Rabbi Lezer has good logic. Im heifer nedarim shabal l'chlal iser. If the husband can remove nedarim that have already started, they've already been pronounced. Don't you think it would be logical that he should be able to remove vows that haven't even started yet? You can knock it off before it starts. If you can knock it off after it starts, then sure you can do it before it even started. It has no power. Less strength.
Rabbi, we went over this before, that like if the husband like appointed someone like a trustee, like that trustee would be able to do it, and then we said that the husband had to hear it. Maybe
Right.
in this case it doesn't work because he never heard it.
Right.
With the trustee hears it and he nullifies it because he's appointed.
Yeah, we mentioned over there that the trustee can't do the hearing. It was the husband that had to do the hearing.
No, it was that the husband went like away and appointed someone and said, "Oh,
Right.
any vow that she takes, like nullify it."
Right, but when how the Gemara concluded that was that he was actually going to come back and hear about it, and he just was afraid that he'd be so distracted by his suitcases and his
Okay.
get back that he won't remember to say mufalach, so he appointed someone else to say mufalach. So here, I hear what you're asking. I think what's going on here is that what about hearing the vows, right?
Mhm.
So actually, we brought this up before. I'm in Iron Days. We brought this up. This is one of our proofs. I'm a list of condom stretch of the Mafarim. This is what the Gemara says about this: is that when he gets back, when he hears about it and he gets back, so it should be annulled by his statement before. He's not asking that it should be annulled without hearing about it. Just his previous statement should work, even though it didn't take effect yet, even though it wasn't yet. Yeah, he's still going to have to hear it.
Yeah, this is a little different here. Seems to me if we stopped right here, the issue would be, can the husband annul a vow when it takes place, or does the vow never take place?
That's going to come up in a second. You'll say in a second. Okay. Right now we're asking if he can. We're saying according to Rabbi Lezer's view is that if he can annul it after it takes place, for sure he can annul it before it takes place. It has less power. So, Amrullah Ari Oimer, they told to Rabbi Eliezer, the sages said, Ishi Kimenov Ishi Freno. The husband establishes the vow, the husband annuls the vow. Now it's quoting a verse. But that verse is going to tell me anything that he can establish, he can also annul. He can't establish it, he can annul it. And we said, everyone agreed that he can't establish the vow until it's uttered. He can't establish it until it's uttered. He can't annul it until it's uttered. That's okay. Ron asks.
Wait, I thought the whole power of the father with the daughter was that he was there before. So he was there before she ever vowed anything either.
Yeah,
So
but he can't annul vows that haven't been uttered yet. We're talking about that was talking about annulling vows that were uttered before the marriage. That the husband together before the betrothal, the husband and the father can annul it. Here we're talking about it wasn't even made yet. She didn't say anything. It's like, I know you might say something, but I just want to let you know I annulled it already. So
forget about it.
Right. All right. Whatever you say doesn't work. We annulled it. So,
Don't even think about it.
the Ran says, how is it so obvious that he can't establish a vow? How did it get so obvious that he can't establish the vow? He says like this. We had a Kal V'chaimer that if you can annul, Rabbi Eliezer's Kal V'chaimer, if you can annul a vow after it's been uttered, he can for sure annul a vow before it's been uttered, because it's much weaker. If he can get rid of it after it already was there, he can for sure get rid of it even before it started, because it has even less strength. Now, that kal v'chomer doesn't work with establishing. He can establish it after it was uttered, but how do you know he can establish it before it was uttered? It has no strength. It's not there yet. So the lack of the kal v'chomer is the logic that tells me that he can't establish it.
Right? Didn't we learn that the husband has to hear of the vow, like, and that the deaf man like can annul a vow because he never heard it?
Right. We're talking about that he's going to make a statement that should take effect after he hears it. He's saying before he hears the vow that it should be established or annulled when I hear it. Why does he have to do it then? Well, maybe later on he's going to be too angry to think logically or something.
Oh, sorry. I thought that he'd never heard the vow and he was just putting that in place like before.
He didn't hear the vow, and the vow wasn't even uttered. He's saying it beforehand, and when the vow is uttered and he hears it, it will be automatically annulled or automatically established. So we said that it doesn't get automatically established. The Ran says because of the lack of a kal v'chomer makes it. Yeah. So Kiveger on the Mishnayos has a question exactly the opposite. It says that
I gotta give you my card.
what do you mean
I
a
have
card?
already
Oh,
card.
really? With the picture? It says like this: if we have a hekesh, we're comparing annulling to establishing. That whatever the case is, they're going to be the same. So for annulling, we have a kal v'chomer that it should work. But we say because of the hekesh, the juxtaposition, the comparison between the establishing to annulling, so we say that it doesn't work. 1 second, it should really be the opposite. We have a kal v'chomer for the hekesh, we have a kal v'chomer for the hefer, for the annulling that it should work. We have zero logic for the establishing. So now that we have a comparison between annulling and establishing, the hekesh should work, the comparison should work the opposite. That just like you can annul the vow before it starts, because I have a kal v'chomer, all the more so if you can annul it afterwards, you can annul it before. And now we have a comparison to establishing. So we should say that you should be able to establish it before it was even uttered. Because it's not a logic that I can't establish it before it was uttered. It's the lack of the logic. So that's his question. Anyway, the Rush has another view over here. If you have the Rush says by Loyam Klum, if he wants to establish it, you see that Rush? He says, could the priest to have a lekiyum betos, appreciation darm shlayachbit. He can't. He can't. The Ran says that if someone establishes a vow before it was even uttered, so it can't be that he really meant it, as if it was established by mistake, because it couldn't have a complete mindset that I'm for sure want it, because there's some vows that he really doesn't want. It depends what she's going to say. He says, whatever vow you're going to say, I'm annulling it. And maybe he actually wanted it. Maybe she said she wasn't going to, eat something that's not healthy or whatever, So maybe that was going to be a good vow. So it couldn't be that he had a gemiras das, that he was like 100% sure. So it's considered like a kiyum betos, like a mistake. So over there you have a real logic. Over there you have a positive logic that why it shouldn't work, not just the lack of a logic why it shouldn't work. Okay. Yeah. Rabbi Kiveger's grandson makes a difference, the Gillian Marsha. He makes a difference between the Ran and the Rush. That if the person wanted to annul a vow before it was uttered. He says which type of vow specifically he doesn't want. Not that he wants to annul. He wants to establish a vow. He wants to establish a. He wants to establish a vow before it was uttered. So if it's a specific type of vow, then according to the Rush, why would it not work? Because we don't know what type of vow she's going to make. But he didn't do that. He established a specific type of vow, which is the one that actually he did want. So then the vow actually would be established. But according to the Ran, that you just can't establish something that was never made, doesn't matter what. So then it wouldn't actually work. Okay.
Is this a new idea that a vow doesn't take effect until it's affirmed by her husband? I mean, what we've learned until now is that he can nullify it, he can object, but we haven't learned that he had to do something for it to take effect. Unless I missed something.
No, it doesn't take effect until sundown. It's not established. I mean, he can, that option of annulling it or establishing is always open until sundown, for the first day.
But if he does nothing,
If he does nothing, he can still annul it. But it's not established. If he establishes it, then he can't annul it anymore.
So-
The establishing of it, all it does,
that he has to do something affirmative for her vow to take effect.
if he wants it to take effect before sundown, then he
Okay.
has to
And
establish
if
it.
he doesn't do anything,
Then at sundown, it's too late. He can't annul it
it
anymore.
takes effect.
It takes effect. Yeah.
So this kiyum is like the nullification. I guess I don't understand what the point is of the kiyum. He does nothing, keep his mouth shut till sundown.
Then it's going to take effect anyway,
Right.
by default. But if he establishes it, then even after, even before sundown, it's too late.
Can't change his mind.
Can't change his mind, right?
Rabbi, we learned.
See, the vow takes effect, right?
So if he establishes it like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, from that point on, she has to go by what she said. But
Yeah.
otherwise, she could wait till 4 or 5 o'clock.
I think what Reb Naftali is asking, is that if she takes a vow in the morning, he does nothing until the afternoon. She meanwhile violates her vow. Is that considered that the vow was established and she violated? Is it considered annulled? What is it considered before there was any annulment or establishment? What is it in the
So if
interim?
she annuls it and then he later annuls it, she really never annulled it. Is that what you're saying? She takes a vow,
She takes a
she
vow.
annuls it, and later on he annuls it, then she actually is not punished for annulling it because it never existed.
You mean she violates it?
Violates
She
it.
violates it.
Yeah.
So, and then he annuls it, then it goes away. Now it didn't exist, but let's say he does nothing in the interim, what's going on? We didn't really discuss that yet. Okay. I think Gemara now has a question. I'm sorry, Hillel.
Rabbi, we learned Friday that when the wife takes a vow, it's like in her mind she has whether her husband is going to approve or disapprove. So if the husband like says this, that he's gonna notify like any vow like for the next month, like will that eliminate what the previous? Like
That's
that she,
actually a different. What he wants to do now is he wants to annul any vow that she's going to take during this next month.
but so since she hears this, she knows that any vow that she take will not take effect. So it'll basically cancel out
Right.
the automatic thing. That's how it works.
Rabbi Eliezer. According to Rabbi Eliezer, that would work.
Oh, okay.
According to the Chachamim, the reason why, according to the Chachamim, it won't work is because since he can't establish the vow, he also can't annul the vow until it was uttered. Okay, the Gemara has a question. This is a yeshiva style question. So Rabbi Eliezer, Mechal Chalen Ubetelen, Dilma Lechalen Klau. He annulled a vow before it was even uttered. So then the vow gets uttered. What happens? When the vow is uttered, is it uttered and it's a vow,
Is it not?
and then his annulment comes in and knocks it off? Or do we say that it was never even uttered? I guess the way of thinking about a question like this, the Gemara is actually going to bring this up soon, is that if someone goes to the mikveh because he was tummy, does he become tahar when he's in the water? Or does he become tahar only when he gets out of the water? Like, what's the difference? Like, I'm not sure exactly about the difference. I guess if he touches something else that's not fully in the water while he's in the water. So, was he already pure from that time? Or so anyway, does the vow start and then he knocks it off with the annulment that he said before? Or do we say that the vow doesn't even start?
Just remind me, which one has Shem Hashem, the vow or the shur?
Sure. Okay, Lamai Nafkamina. The Gemara has a question. What's the difference? Yeah, in the yeshivas, when they have questions like this, they don't really say Lamai Nafkamina. Sometimes they do. But even if there's no Nafkamina, they say, what do you mean? The Nafkamina is what comes out from it. What's the practical difference? They say, well, the difference would be if someone marries a woman on condition that this is the interpretation. So is she married or not? You'll always have a Nafkamina. So what's the nafkamina? What's the practical difference? What happened is she took a vow. Let's say it like this. He annulled the vow before she even uttered it. Then she utters the vow. Then she utters the vow. If we say, and then 1 second, and then another person says, let's say the vow was Hareini Nazira. Okay, she says, I'm going to be a Nazir. Someone else says that Ba'ani Kamaya, I'm going to be exactly like her. Okay, now, if you say that the vow took effect, but his annulment kicks in afterwards, so we say Ba'ani Kamaya, okay. So he said that she said, I'm going to be exactly like her. So then the vow was there and he becomes a Nazir as well. But she's not and he is. But it took effect for a moment. So, and then it got annulled by the husband. So the second person's vow will work. But if you say that there was never a vow there, because his annulment comes in even before it even starts, then we say that the second person is not a Nazir. If we say that it takes effect, it will be typhus, it will be like grasping it. But if we say that it doesn't take effect, then there's nothing there. Now, the Ran has a spectacular question on this. His question is that we learned before that if there's a person that takes a vow and says, I'm going to be a Nazir, and someone else says, and I'm going to be like him, and the next one says, I'm going to be like him, and there's this chain of each one going. So if the last person annulled the vow, then only the last person's vow is annulled. If the first person annulled the vow, then the whole chain of vows is all off. And if it's somewhere in the middle, then the one after him is annulled, the one before him.
Like a domino.
Like dominoes, right?
We had similar.
We had
thing
this.
Yeah.
We had this before. So the Ran is asking, why is this even a question that a person takes a vow, the woman takes a vow after the husband had annulled any vow that she's going to take? She takes a vow now. And the question is, when the second person comes along and says, and I should be like her, we ask, did this person become a Nazir or not? The second person. But what does it matter? Once her vow is annulled, then the second person's vow is annulled. Like we learned in that other Mishnah. So even if the vow takes effect, but it's annulled, but the person's not a Nazir anyway, because the vow was annulled. It falls off. If she's not a Nazir, then it falls off. It's a very good question. The Ran answers. Did I see this? Let me find it in the Ran itself. Yeah, the Ran back here. That's the problem. The Ran, it's on the other page. The Ran says that when do we say hutter echad, hutter kulan? That one of them, the first one gets annulled, all of them get annulled. that's only when you go to a chacham to get rid of the neder, because the chacham is oiker on neder mi karay. The chacham retroactively takes off the neder. The husband, when he annuls the neder, he just stops it from there and on. So if it's retroactive, then we say that none of them become a nazir. But here it's not retroactive. Here it's only from here and on. That's the Ran. The Ran actually has a raya from a clear Gemara. The Gemara asks the question: does a husband? Just give me one second, let me. Does a husband's annulment go back retroactive, or does it just chop it off from here and on? He uses that expression. It chops it from here and on, and here from here and on it doesn't work. Gemara says, what's the difference? The difference is the Gemara says that if she says, I want to be a Nazir, and a friend says, me too, and then the husband annuls it, do we say that the friend is a Nazir or not? If it's uprooting it from beforehand, then the friend is not a Nazir. But if it's from here on, then the friend would be a Nazir. It's exactly what the Gemara is saying here, that it works with Hafara is different than Hatara. Hafara is from here and on. The husband is Mefer, he annuls it, and the Chacham, the rabbi that annuls it, he uproots it. It's different than annulling it from.
So in the case of the Chacham, the other friend,
They're all off.
This.
Yeah. Otherwise, this Gemara wouldn't work.
So he grew the beard for nothing. Don't get any ideas, guys.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay. The Gemara asks, "My." So, what's going to be the answer to our question? How do we understand what's going on with the annulment that's done before the vow is even uttered? Tashima. So come and listen. I'm Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says, "Im heifer nedarim shabo l'chlal liser." Oh, thank you. If he annuls vows that were already started, lo yafer nedarim shelo bo l'chlal liser. Should he not be able to annul vows that were never started? That was Rabbi Eliezer's Kal V'Chomer in the Mishnah. If you think about it, that Kal V'Chomer would only work if the annulment of the vows is in a way that the vows never even start. Shema mina lechalim. Or else you're just repeating the same thing. If he can annul a vow that after it starts, he can for sure annul a vow after it starts. It must be that the vow never starts. That's the only way that you could have a Kal V'Chomer. So we have an answer from the Kal V'Chomer Rabbi Eliezer. Obviously, that's the way Rabbi Eliezer was viewing it, that the vow never starts. That's why it's even better than annulling. It's easier to annul. Where it says, in other words, what we did over here was we're using the logic of Rabbi Eliezer. We're not focusing on the words of Rabbi Eliezer, just the logic. How does it work? Gemara says, no, you have to focus on the words. Miktani she'enim boyin. Does it say that don't come to take effect? Shloi bo'u, that have not come to take effect. That means adayin leibo, they have not come yet to take effect. Okay, now we're left with a little bit of problem. If you're going to focus on the words, and you're going to say that the vow actually took effect, so then what's the Kal V'Chomer? Now we have to redo this Kal V'Chomer. Rabbi Eliezer Kal V'Chomer was, if you can annul a vow after it takes effect, for sure you can annul a vow before it takes effect. But 1 second, you're not annulling it before it takes effect. You're annulling it after it takes effect also, according to this. So the Ran explains that if you can annul a vow, this is the Kal V'Chomer, a new Kal V'Chomer. If you can annul a vow that has no defect in it, because the vow was taken already, it was already uttered. So for sure you can annul a vow that before it was even started, it already had a defect, that the annulment was already there. but not that the vow doesn't take effect at all. It just has a mum. The vow has a mum. And if you can annul a vow without a mum, you can then that means a strong vow, you can annul a vow with a mum. So it's like we're redoing this Kal V'chomer a little bit. Tashema. Come and listen. Amalem Rebbe Lezer. Rebbe Lezer says, "Ma b'makom shein mefer nidrei atzmai mishen nadar." If a person can't annul his own vows, but mefer nidrei atzmai ad shlayidar, but he can annul his own vows before he makes them. How does he do that? He says on Rosh Hashanah, he says, any vows that I take this year should be annulled. If he can annul vows before he can't annul his own vows, but he can annul his own vows before he takes them. So, if he can, this is Rabbi Eliezer's logic. If he in a place where he can annul vows after he takes them, which means his wife's vows, is it not a Kal V'chomer that he can annul them before they're taken? It's a great logic, right? If he can't annul his vows, but he can annul his own vows before he takes them, by saying that any vows that I'm going to take from now until Rosh Hashanah should be void, and he's able to do that. So for sure, in a place where he's able to annul vows even after they're taken, he can take them off. For sure, he should be able to annul the vows before they're taken. That's Rebbe Lezer's logic. Now it says like this. Well, my love, is it not? The Ishtei Dumya delay. His wife's vows should be similar to his vows. Mahu delay chaylan, afishtinami delay chaylan. What happens with his vows? When he says that any vows that I take from now until Rosh Hashanah should be void. Right? From this Rosh Hashanah to next Rosh Hashanah, they should all be void. So do they start?
Isn't
Yom
this called
Kippur,
Nidra
whatever.
Yom Kippur?
Yeah, or
Yom
it's
Kippur,
really,
Yom Kippur.
yeah, but it's really, he says it also Erev Rosh Hashanah. Harayani Meiser Meida. Remember at the end of the. So just like over there, those vows don't take effect. So too by the wife, they shouldn't take effect. But that's our comparison, right? If he can annul his own vows before they're taken, be able to annul his wife's vows before they're taken. Now his own vows don't take effect. His wife's vows also shouldn't take effect. We'll have an answer to that question that the vow never takes effect. We had a question: does it take effect and he knocks it off, or does it not even start?
If you say that the woman is an extension of your hand, and most vows are done with the symbolism using a hand, then certainly it's
the same thing,
automatic.
right?
Yes.
It's the same thing. The Gemara says,
What are you
"Lie."
trying to get rid of this? Excess.
The Gemara says, "Lie." Hakadisa, hakadisa. You have no proof for this. You have no proof for this. You have no proof that just because his vows don't start, that means the wife's vows also don't start. Now, the Ran explains that there's one piece of logic that was missing in this comparison. And that is that when he takes a vow, after he already said that I don't want any vows to work, so that's considered a mistake on his part. And it's considered a nidrei tos, a vow that was made by mistake, and so it doesn't apply. When his wife takes a vow after he says that he wants it annulled, that's not considered a nidrei tos, a mistake. She took the vow. So his vow is easier to get off than his wife's vow. Yeah, so that's why hakadisa, this vow never starts. The other vow could actually start, his wife's vow. Let's finish till the end of the page. No, it's still in. Tashema. Come and listen. I'm Rabbi Lezer. He told Rabbi Lezer, comes to a mikveh. Something that's tummy. Put it in the mikveh. It gets pure. But ein matzal al tamei. But you can't put it in the mikveh as a preventative. You put it in the mikveh first, it shouldn't become tummy later. That doesn't work. So Adam, she'ein malna satmei mitmasam. A person, what's this expression? In Malinas, it's in additionally, Ushla Yatzel ala Torah Milatame. Malas in Matzel ala Torah Milatame. One second. Amrulay Rabbis. This is the sages telling Rabbi Lezer. Adam she'in malas atmei mitmasam. Person that can't take the impure. In a dinhu shlayatzel ala Torah milatame. Is it not obvious that he can also raise those? The problem is that he can annul his wife's vows. Let me see the. This. 1 second. I have it. So, with regard to a person who does not elevate the impure from impurity, when a person swallows a ritual impure object and then immerses in a ritual bath, the object remains impure, or that's what it's referring to. If he swallows something and then he goes into a mikveh, it remains impure. Is it not logical that he should not save pure items from becoming impure? When one who has swallowed a ritually pure object comes into contact with impurity, the object they have swallowed should also become impure. This is not the case, as a swallowed object does not become impure when the person who swallowed it does. Therefore, the fortiori argument is flawed. One cannot derive from the ability to change his status, like the husband's ability to nullify his wife's vow, or the ability of the ritual bath. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Rabbi, in the notes, Rabbi, in the notes in the Quran, it has 3 different explanations.
Yeah, we'll go through it tomorrow.
That was the kryptonite clause.
It's correct, Rabbi Shawartov.